Good morning. Welcome to another one night meditation. Our teacher this week is Thich Nhat Hanh. And I'm ready to share a beautiful message from Thich Nhat Hanh with you. Thich Nhat Hanh says, when another person makes you suffer, it is because he is suffering deep within himself. And his suffering is spilling over. He doesn't need punishment. He needs help. Somebody, a very good morning. It's good to see you. Anthony, good evening. Awesome seeing you. When another person makes you suffer, it's because he is suffering deep within himself and his suffering is spilling over. He doesn't need punishment, he needs help. And the second quote says, to be beautiful means to be yourself. You don't need to be accepted by others. What you need is to accept yourself. Then you can be yourself. So these two quotes seemingly point in opposite directions. One talks about looking at another person, where it says he doesn't need punishment, he needs help. And the other one speaks about looking at myself, where it says you need to accept yourself. But there is a common thread here. The common thread is, what is it that causes the suffering deep within himself and the other, and the lack of acceptance within myself? And it's likely very similar, a deep inner woundedness. Maggie, very good morning. Hello, it's good to see you. Thich Nhat Hanh speaks beautifully about attending to our wounded inner child, which is most often the root cause of all the things that we struggle with. I love how he says this really beautifully. Hey Charlene, a very good morning, good to see you. This is from Thich Nhat Hanh. He says, to take good care of ourselves, we must go back and take care of the wounded child inside of us. You have to practice going back to your wounded child every day. You have to embrace him or her tenderly, like a big brother or a big sister. You have to talk to him, talk to her. And you can write a letter to the little child in you of 1 or 2 or 3 pages to show that you recognize his or her presence and that you will do everything you can to heal his or her wounds. When you climb a beautiful mountain, invite your little child within to climb with you. When you contemplate the beautiful sunset, invite him or her to enjoy it with you. If you do that for a few weeks or a few months, the wounded child in you will become healed. Mindfulness is the energy that can help us to do this. I love how beautifully and simply he explains this. Finding acceptance for every part of you changes everything. When you understand how every part of you came into being, then it's clear to see how everything inside of you has been doing its best to help you survive. When you see yourself differently, you start to speak to yourself differently, and your inner narrative becomes one of empowerment. When you have this level of self-acceptance, then it brings you full circle back to the first quote again. Being able to really see another and recognize that so much of what drives the humans around us is the result of their own struggling to deal with a wounded inner child. Doing your own work, healing your own wounded parts, makes you able to give the humans around you the space that they need to take a look at their own selves without fear of judgment. This is our journey today, a sense of self. In this journey, we will invite our inner children to come and sit with us for a little while. We'll make it clear that we are here to listen to them, and then we'll take the time to hear what it is that they have to say. If you're ready, let's sail off. You can close your eyes and let's slip away onto today's journey, starting with the first few big breaths. Let's take a deep breath in and out. Take a deep breath in and out. A deep inhale and let it go. Deep breath in and out. One more big breath in and let it all flow away. You can continue the same breathing pattern on your own time. Every slow inhale through your nose gets drawn all the way deep down into your belly. And as you fill up the balloon inside your belly, also raise yourself up. As you breathe in, stretch out your spine, lift the top of your head toward the ceiling. And once you've reached your full height, let all of it go. While you continue your own full body breathing, rising with every inhale and falling with every exhale. We are going to invite our inner children to come and sit with us. In my mind, it always looks a bit like a grade 1 teacher calling the kids to come and sit on the carpet with her. The examples I will use today are very simple examples, but you are welcome to substitute them with any examples of your own. We're calling sadness and anger and fear. Those are the inner children that we are inviting to come and sit with us. See if we can form some kind of a mental picture of these 3 inner children. And ask them to breathe along with you. Are you able to see the rising and falling of these three inner children as they breathe along with you? Sometimes we get a very clear, no, I don't want to, from one or some of them. And that is very normal and quite okay. No one is going to be forced to, but the invitation remains open. See if you can form an idea of what little sadness might look like. And the same with anger and with fear. We'll take the last few big breaths of this phase together. Helping our bodies stretch and adjust and settle down into as much comfort as possible for the rest of our journey. And these inner children are invited to stretch along with us. Let's take a deep breath in. As you release, drop your head all the way forward and roll out your neck muscles, going forward and to the left, and forward and to the right. Take a deep breath in. As you release, roll your shoulders forward in big, slow circles. Take a deep breath in. As you release, roll your shoulders backwards in big circles, nice and slow. Take a deep breath in. As you release, focus on your spine. Lean your upper body over to the left. And also lean your upper body over to the right. You're stretching into your back muscles, finding where the edges are and gently leaning into those edges. One more big breath in. And as you release, you can stretch, remove, or adjust any part of your body that still needs a bit of help settling down. Having softened our bodies into a state of presence, or at least as much as we are able to, We can now turn our attention inwards and dive deep inside for the next part of our journey. If you don't have the time to sit for the whole meditation with us, then this is a really good place to stop. If you don't, for the next few breaths, we'll hold our breath for just a few moments. So let's do the next few breaths together. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, make it a really long, really slow exhale. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, feel into your body. Feel how softness settles in every part of your body. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, follow the downwards flow through your body. Feel your shoulders slowly falling, feel your body slowly softening, and feel how you are slowly slipping deeper into you. Take a deep breath in and hold. And as you release, feel yourself melting, feel your whole body dissolving. Feel how you are slipping into a deeper level of surrender with every slow exhale. You can continue the same breathing pattern on your own time. Every slow inhale through your nose is an invitation. It invites you to turn inwards and follow this journey. As you breathe in, feel the air flow in through your nostrils. Feel the air touch the back of your throat. Stay with your breath as it flows in through your lungs. And as you fill up the balloon inside your belly, feel yourself slip all the way in. Hold your breath, but hold it only for as long as it feels easy, followed by a really long, really slow exhale. Let's take a deep breath in and hold it for as long as you can easily do. We'll turn our attention now to these three inner children we invited to come and sit with us. First, we turn our attention to sadness. We're inviting sadness to speak. We're making sure that sadness knows we are here to listen. As you take your next big breath and dive deep into you, ask sadness to remind you what it says when you feel sad. When sadness is the emotion you feel, what are the words bouncing around in your head? What are the phrases that get used again and again when you feel sad? And while you listen, see if you can get a good picture of what sadness looks like. Take your next big breath. We're still working with sadness. And with your next big breath, as you dive deep into you, I want you to ask sadness a question. But can you ask a question and also let the question go? Can you ask the question without trying to search for an answer with your brain? Ask the question and trust that if there is a response, it'll come from a deeper place. You don't have to think about it and try and find it. Sometimes the answer to the question pops up instantly, and other times not, which is completely okay. But allow sadness to either answer or not. So as you take your next big breath and dive deep into you, turn towards sadness and say, sadness, when you feel so sad, what is it that you are afraid is going to happen? What is it that you are afraid is going to happen? Take your next big breath. Take a moment to thank sadness for showing up, for being seen, for being heard. It's a very brave thing to do, to be seen and be heard. We're going to turn our attention to anger. And with your next big breath, as you dive deep into you, we are asking anger to speak, to remind us of what it is we feel, or what the narratives are that run on that loop like an old recording when we feel so angry. Ask anger to remind you. And while you listen, see if you can form a picture of what anger looks like. Take your next big breath. And then I want you to ask anger a question. And once again, can you ask the question and not have your brain try and search and come up with an answer? Can you ask anger a question and also let the question go? And trust that from a deeper place, anger will respond, or perhaps not, and either is okay. Again, turn towards anger, and as you take your next big breath and dive deep into you, speak to anger and ask the question this way. Say, anger, when you feel so angry, what is it that you really want for me? What is it that you really want for us? Take your next big breath. Take a moment to thank anger for showing up, for being seen, for being heard. It takes courage to be seen and heard. Then we'll shift our attention to fear. And as you take your next big breath and dive deep into you, we are asking fear to speak. To remind yourself in those moments you feel really scared. What are the words bouncing around in your head? What are the phrases, the narratives on repeat when you feel so scared? It tends to be an old story repeated again. So as you take your next big breath and dive deep into you and ask fear to remind you of how it speaks, see if you can form an image of what this little fear looks like. Take your next big breath. Then I want you to ask fear a question. And again, can you ask fear a question without trying to use your brain to search for the answer? Can you ask the question and just let it go and trust that fear will answer from a deeper place if the answer is there? So with your next big breath, as you dive deep into you, turn towards fear and speak to fear this way. Say, fear, when you are so scared, when you feel so scared, in that moment, what is your deep desire? What is it that you really want for us in the moment where you feel scared? Take your next big breath. We'll take the last few big breaths of this phase together. Slipping out of the breath holding space and into the next. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, make it the longest, slowest exhale that you can. Take a deep breath in and hold. As you release, feel how softness comes and settles in every part of your body. One more big breath in and hold. And as you release, feel yourself slip all the way through. There is no more attention on your breathing. You can sit all the way back or even lie all the way back down and feel yourself just floating. When instead of running away, numbing, hiding, avoiding, when instead we turn towards everything within us that might have troubled us before, when we turn towards them and face them and actually really listen to them, and we get to understand the origin. Why does this exist within me? We get to understand the reason, and when we understand the reason, we get to see very clearly that everything inside me has always been trying to help me cope, been trying to help me survive. And then it becomes even more obvious that we should listen, that we should work with these parts of ourselves. I'll read to you again how Thich Nhat Hanh says this. He says, to take good care of ourselves, we must go back and take care of the wounded child within us. You have to practice going back to your wounded child every day. Not just sometimes, not just when that child is crying, but be proactive. You have to practice going back to your wounded child every day. You have to embrace him or her tenderly, like a big brother or a big sister. You have to talk to him, talk to her, and you can write a letter to the little child in you of 2 or 3 pages to show that you recognize his or her presence, and that you will do everything you can to heal his or her wounds. When you climb a beautiful mountain, invite your little child within you to climb with you. When you contemplate the beautiful sunset, invite him or her to enjoy it with you. If you do that for a few weeks or a few months, the wounded child in you will be healed. Mindfulness is the energy that can help us do this. I love the simplicity with which he explains that. Try this sometime. Be the older brother, the older sister to this inner child. And you can almost imagine it like listening to someone else, your brother, your sister, or a good friend, and say, you speak, and I'll write down your words. Take pen and paper. Ask this inner child to speak, and just write down what they say. You might not need to do much more than that. Just listen and write down the words. The overarching question here is, when you're able to listen to sadness, anger, fear, or whatever other examples there are, when you're able to take a step back and listen, or even put pen to paper and write down what they're saying, in this moment, who are you being? Because when you're listening and writing down, you're not being sadness, you're not being anger, and you're not being fear. So then who are you being? There are many labels we can slap onto this, but this certainly is the best part of you, the whole part of you. Your soul, your higher self, your wisdom. This is the part of you with arms big enough to hold everything else. Practice going back there every day. And the more you practice, the more you will be the expression of your soul, the expression of your wisdom. We have the last 5 breaths of gratitude to do together. With every exhale, I'll say my thank you, and I invite you to say yours. Let's take a deep breath in. Thank you for learning how to listen to these inner children. breath in. Thank you for learning that by listening, I learn how to understand why it's here, why it feels the way it feels, why it says the things it says. Take a deep breath in. Thank you for getting to a place of understanding that everything within me has always been doing its best to help me try and survive. And I can have gratitude for that. I can have real appreciation for that. Take a deep breath in. And thank you for growing into the part of me that does the listening, the part of me that does the holding, becoming more and more the embodiment of my soul, and more taking action from that place, because the better we get at it, the less we take action from sadness and fear and anger, and the more our action becomes motivated by wisdom, higher self, soul. One more big breath in. Thank you, beautiful people. Thank you for being a part of our journey today. Thank you for doing your work, for being willing to allow inner children to be heard and held. Good morning, Stephen. It's always good seeing you here. Good morning, Katrin. It looks like we're seeing a lot of you this year. That's beautiful. Thank you, Charlene. You have a really beautiful day too. Thanks, Anthony. Thank you, Maggie. And whoever else might be along here with us. See you again soon. Ciao, ciao.